Missions Month. Someone put your hands together. I'm super excited. I don't know if you can tell, but this is my passion. I love missions. I would dedicate my whole life to missions if it paid well enough for me to do it. But it doesn't, so I have to have a real job. Anyways, so this week, this first week of Missions Month, we are starting with Grace and Bruce Snavely, who are missionaries that founded Global Baptist Training Foundation. Right now, Bruce Snavely is in Liberia, the African country of Liberia, and he's going to be there for 2 weeks doing 2 different classes. And what Global Baptist Training Foundation does is they go into African, Asian, and I think sometimes European countries, and they get a bunch of pastors together. They give them college-level theological training. So they know the Bible. They know what to teach. They know what we believe, everything. They get it for free because they don't have money to pay for stuff like we do. They stay there for a week. They get all of the training. They take meticulous notes. Everything is handwritten. And then they bring all of that information back to their churches, and they teach. And they equip the men and women in their churches to reach others, which is amazing. So I have a lot of notes because I'm trying to be organized, and I don't want to keep you here till 12. All right. So GBTF, Global Baptist Training Foundation, is in 14 different countries right now. And that's within the continent of Africa, and it's also Myanmar in Asia, which was formerly Burma, if that makes a little more sense, if you recognize that name. They have trained over 1,000 pastors with theological training. Within the last 5 years, they have started, or they have helped start 500 new churches in Africa and Myanmar. 500. That's a lot. That's a lot of churches. The pastors that come to these classes, they go back to their villages, and often they equip younger men who will go out and reach villages that have not heard about Jesus yet. They start churches, and often they reach an entire village for Jesus. There's a new location that's going to be starting soon, and it's in the African country of Angola. It's a Portuguese-speaking country, and that's new for them. But so they're starting with one location. They haven't even started yet. And the pastor who's asked them to come to Angola has said, by the way, we have 400 pastors, and they're asking for multiple other locations. So if you can you accommodate that? And they're like, we'll try. And what's so exciting about Global Baptist Training Foundation is that literally within the last 5 years, they have exploded. And they're finally at the place where it's been Mr. Snavely who's been going over like so many times a year to all of these African countries in order to teach. And sometimes he has helpers that go over with him. But at this point, they finally have 20 different national pastors who are ready to become trainers, which means that they are ready to be funded to start going into all of these countries that still need to be taught and do the job that Mr. Snavely has been doing. And that this is the peak. This is the peak of what Global Baptist Training Foundation is all about, is training national pastors to go out and reach their people. Because they know the culture, they know the language, and they love their people. And this is one of the most effective ways to reach a lot of countries in Africa. Okay, sorry. This year, some of you may know, there's a lot of new people here, some of you may know that in 2015 to 2016, I went to Rwanda with Global Baptist Training Foundation. So this particular foundation is really, really close and special to my heart. This year, we're starting this Missions Month focusing on Global Baptist Training Foundation, but it doesn't end in September. We're going to be bringing it all the way to December, and we're going to be raising money for a special missions offering. Because out of the 20 trainers that they have that are ready, all of them need to be funded. And it's $300 a month to fund one of the trainers. That means that all of their materials, their food, their transportation, all of it needs to come from the organization. And I want us to be a part of that because just funding one of them to go and teach the pastors that need to be taught means that we get to be a part of reaching thousands of people for Jesus. So what I'd really love to do, and I hope that you guys get behind this and passionate and excited about it with me, is I'd like to raise $7,200 to fund 2 trainers for a year. And that's all that they need, like I said, and it allows them to go to a bunch of different countries, a bunch of different locations, and train literal hundreds of pastors. And that's what I want to do this year. Are you guys behind me? Does that sound good? Are you guys excited about that? Because I'm super excited because I have seen firsthand the life change that comes from these churches. And all of these churches that are started are usually about 2,000 people. And a lot of these people travel 2 hours walking to get to church, and then they spend the whole day at church. And it's just a whole thing, and it's amazing. And it's just so exciting to see that Global Baptist Training Foundation is just exploding with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And on top of that, I have a video that I'd really love to have you guys watch, because you're going to hear from the one trainer that they have right now. His name is Fidel. I actually got to know him pretty well when I was living in Rwanda. He's a great guy. And he's going to be speaking in the video, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about Global Baptist Training Foundation.
What does it look like when fulfilling the Great Commission of Jesus Christ comes full circle? First, that can only happen when poor, struggling pastors in developing nations are trained, equipped, and enabled to reach their very own nations with the gospel. Then, those pastors begin training others, and new church plants are begun, and multitudes of new believers come out of the darkness into the glorious light of the gospel. In the past 42 months, Global Baptist Training Foundation pastors have started 20 new churches in Uganda. 15 have been started in the Buddhist stronghold of Myanmar, and 124 new churches in Liberia. Many others have begun in Mexico, Haiti, and Rwanda. How is this possible? The answer is incredibly simple, yet biblically profound.
I am Fidel Shinga, East Africa trainer with Global Baptist Training Foundation. Because of global mission activity for over 200 years on my continent and around the world, there are multitudes of believers in Jesus Christ who can be equipped and trained to reach their nations with the gospel. They do not need Western missionaries sent at great expense to do for them what God has called them to do. They need only to be trained to do the job themselves because they already know the language, understand their own culture, and already love the people. I know, because I am a native Congolese who speaks 5 languages and has been theologically equipped with the best training available. And now I am traveling to Kenya, Tanzania, Congo, Burundi, and Rwanda. I am teaching hundreds of Christian leaders and raising up new trainers like myself all over East Africa. I humbly ask you to pray for this great work and consider giving monthly to fulfill this mission of training nationals to train other nationals.
So like I said, we're trying to do adopt a pastor. So that means that even if you feel like you can't be a part of helping fund a trainer, if you'd be willing to just give $30 a month, that supports one pastor and allows him to come to Kigali or wherever the location is that year, and he gets 2 classes for the year. That also means that he gets fed while he's there, and he gets all of the theological training that he needs to bring back to his people. So that's what we're doing for Global Baptist Training Foundation. On top of that, I really was very excited. I was in touch with Brian McGrath and asked him a little bit about what happened last year after last year's Mission Month. I was super excited. I couldn't believe it. But after last year's Missions Month, giving doubled. Just straight up doubled. On top of the missionaries that we already support, we were able to help the Macabres in an emergency when his father was dying. He and his whole family had to come from Paraguay in an emergency and be here with his family. They needed help. They couldn't get here. They couldn't raise the funds that quickly. We were able to give them the money that they needed to get here to be with his family. On top of that, we were able to give a really large love offering to another missionary couple that we don't support, but was brought to our attention by a sister church. They also had a family emergency where their son-in-law died unexpectedly and suddenly, and they had to come home from Africa. And I can tell you again from experience, that is not a cheap airplane. That's not a cheap ticket. It's really expensive, but we were able to give them a really big love offering to help them get home to be with their families. And we were also able to give a love offering to Tyler and Sarah as they've been going to Ireland and doing the work that it takes to become missionaries. We were also able to give Boston Baptist College a love offering this spring, which is huge because a lot of us, I don't know if you know this, a lot of the 30-something-year-olds, 20-something-year-olds in this room went to Boston Baptist College for theological training. So it's huge. So the importance of this month, right? I've shared about Global Baptist Training Foundation, what we've been able to do in just the past year. The entire point of this month is I want you guys to know who our missionaries are. I want you to know who we're supporting, why we're supporting them, and what they're doing with the support that we give them. Because the missionaries that we support are amazing. And they are affecting real life change for thousands upon thousands of people in so many different countries. And I want you guys to know about it. I want you guys to get excited about it. I want you guys to be involved. Because whatever they're doing, when we support them, we get to be a part of it. And someday when we stand before the feet of Jesus, we get to say, all of those thousands of people that came to Jesus, I got to be a small part of that. Those are crowns that I get to lay at the feet of Jesus because I was willing to be a part. I was willing to share. I was willing to give. And that is the entire point of all of this. It's not just us asking for your money because whatever, but it's us asking, please, be a part of something that impacts other people's lives eternally. That's all that this is about. So to end for this week, I hope that you learned something new about the Snavely's. I hope that you feel like you've been educated a little bit about what they do. And if you feel like you haven't, you can take that up with me later. That's totally fine. You can come find me and ask me any questions that you want. I know a lot more about the Training Foundation. There's just so much information that I can only fit into like 15 minutes at this point. So if you have any other questions, please come find me. Send me a message on Facebook. Get my phone number. Text me. Email me. Whatever. I don't care. Just get in touch with me, and I will try to give you as much information, help you understand in any way that I can, because like I said, I love this stuff. So to end, if you want to get to know the Snavelys a little bit more, Mr. Snavely has actually written 2 books. One is his life story called All the Way Home, and if you want to talk about someone who has a crazy life story, it's this man. Like, I'm not joking. Like, his life story could be a movie, and not a Hallmark movie. Maybe. I don't know. His life story is amazing. He went from being in a nuclear family with a father that loved him and a mother that loved him to his father dying, a stepmother taking over, and his father was extremely wealthy. They lived on a farm and everything. His stepmother, after his mother died, completely cut him and his siblings out from the father's will. They ended up in foster care. His brother, his sister, and he never really saw each other after that. His sister was killed by a serial killer. His brother died, I think, from cancer or something like that, and he was in the foster care system for years. And then it's just so amazing. Like, you need to read it. So there's two of them back there. There's 2 books back there, and if you want to borrow it, feel free. Just bring it back so someone else can borrow it. Okay? The other one is called Indigenous. And this one is all about Mr. Snavely and Mrs. Snavely's adventures and all of the different locations and really talking about the ministry firsthand. A lot of the stories that they've gone through, which again, you want to talk about some interesting stories, they're in there. So those are back there. If you guys want to borrow them, feel free. Please feel free. I want you to get to know these missionaries. And they're also on Amazon if you feel like you would rather just buy one for yourself. You can find them on Amazon. So just take a picture of them and then go home with it. But that's it. That's all I have for this week. So we're going to close with a word of prayer, and then you guys are dismissed, okay? All right, Father, thank you so much for the ability that we all have to come here safe to worship you. That we can all get in our cars and drive here with convenience. Because so many people have to walk hours just to get to church, just to hear about the living power of Jesus Christ. Father, I hope that we don't take that for granted. I pray that you would be with us in the coming weeks, that you would be with me as I try to share about these missionaries, to share what was happening with them, the life change that they are affecting in nations, and that we would get excited and want to get behind them and support them in any way that we can, Father. I pray for the Snaveleys, that Mr. Snavely is in Liberia this week, Father. I pray that you would be with him and his translator and all of the hundreds of pastors that he's training this week, that they would be able to soak in as much as possible so they could bring that back to all of their pastors' wives, and all of the families